Hello, it's me and my chocolate drop hero. Sorry, y'all. Stuck my finger right in front of the camera. It's me and chocolate drop. So we were talking about private pain, but showing up to produce. And so, as we so rudely got interrupted or reported for nudity and sexual activity, we're
Not
gonna
showing anything.
not showing nothing on the road, driving at that, um, going to celebrate my baby's birthday. So this time, in this one, we're going to talk about men and women because I think before I was kind of going down the list, but I'm going to deal with it the way God gave it to me. He gave me men and women first. And so, private pain, when we're talking about private things, things that you deal with at home, things that you deal with internally, it could be, uh, let's see how I want to address it. Make sure I'm saying this correct, Lord. I thank you. Um, hmm, trying to find the right verbiage.
Mm.
You could be dealing with mental issues. You can be dealing with abuse, rejection, neglect. You can be dealing with lack because all of that causes stress.
Yes.
But for women, oftentimes, I'm not saying all the time. A lot of the times for women, when we have to make sure the house is good and we're still trying to do our job and we're menstrual issues or mental issues can cause an additional strain on you, stress of trying to pull everything together, and you got a headache and you worked all day and you're tired. You gotta make sure the kids have eaten, that they do the homework, that they go to school, because some people don't even care whether the kids go to school or not. And that's no slight, that's to each his own. But for a woman, there's so much on your plate, and I say for a woman because I am a woman. I know how it feels when I was had 5 girls. That I have 5 girls, but when I was single,
Yes.
and when I had 5 girls, or having 5 girls, and was married, but I felt like I was by myself. So I'm speaking from my own experience. It was a lot, and oftentimes I put myself down, put myself last to ensure that they had what they had. Every decision I made was about them. Standing Army was about making sure they had what they needed. Picking where I buy a house or where we live, it was about them, making sure they had the best school. Or I always put them first, and whatever I needed always came last. And oftentimes I didn't even care what I needed. I made sure they were good 1st. And so for me, I know the private pain of it was I was always stressed. I was literally functioning off stress.
I got it.
So if a headache came and they needed something, my attitude might be wrong, but I'm gonna make it happen because I felt alone even when I was married. So I had to make it happen. And oftentimes women forget to take care of themselves, and nobody really ever taught us that. When I grew up, I saw the women working real hard, and when everything was done, they took a bath and went to sleep. I ain't seen nobody doing no self-care. They were nurses. They were cleaning people's houses. My grandma was a private duty nurse. She would go sleep at the house with her client. I see her in the morning when she come in. She got to go to sleep and then get everything ready for the house, and then she back to somebody else's house again. So I never saw her really conduct self-care or slow down enough. So when I got grown and I had my first daughter at 16, not even knowing how to be a parent, 16 years old giving birth, I thought just keep going. That was a part of parenting. You keep going, you keep doing, you keep making sure they have what they need.
Yes.
I was not taught self-care until I was in the military, and the doctors were like, you need to slow down. You're wearing your body out. You're really not going to be, this is not going to be sustainable for you to make it to 26 years. And it wasn't. I did 21. So I didn't learn the self-care until I had already broken myself down. And I pay for it daily now. Over 20 plus surgeries in my life because I didn't slow down to take care of myself. It wasn't taught. Militaries make the mission happen. Keep going. No pain, no gain. You made the mission happen. You didn't stop until you almost could not do nothing else. And so it became a private pain that you just dealt with. It's a private pain when you're stressed out, and people don't realize stress causes pain.
Yes.
You feel it, and for a woman, it's almost constant. When do we slow down? Or we're learning more and more now to slow down and be more self-aware. You lose your confidence, you lose your identity, you lose a lot just going, making it happen. And somewhere down the line, you almost forget who you are and what you like. So it becomes a private pain, but you're still showing up with a smile on your face. You're still showing up, making sure that what they need is provided. It becomes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And as God, having the talks with Marcy yesterday, standing in the front yard, and I was like, oh, and now I got a boot, and it's on the right side. And she was like, wait, you got a brace on your right arm.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Brace on my right arm, boot on my right foot. Because I did not slow down and I was not listening to my body. I'm used to being in pain. So I'm like, okay, I can take more, okay. Until it was a breakdown and you saw me at my worst,
Yes.
finally understanding, that the pain is real.
Yes.
I don't sleep. I go to sleep, but I don't stay asleep. And it wears on my attitude, how I show up, how I'm feeling, whether I eat or not. You were finally seeing that for the first time after being married almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was like, just seeing you go through it and just realizing that you were in that much pain. Again, I've talked, we had a discussion earlier where I was talking about, being in athletics for many, many years and seeing players go through pain, but you can see it on their face and they continue to push through it. Whereas my wife, you wouldn't even see the pain on her face, and I think I brought up the term or the phrase, you don't look like what you've been through. And basically that's her, in a nutshell. She don't look like what she's been through. She still continues to smile. She still continues to do what she's supposed to do as a wife and as a mother on a daily basis, all while dealing with the pain and you not even realizing how much pain she's in. And so just having to learn that, just having to learn her mannerisms and the things that she does, it's taken me almost 2 years, and there's still a lot for me to learn, but understanding that she still continues to push through it, again, all while being a mother, all while being a wife, all while doing her duties, whatever duties she may have, dealing with other organizations and things of that nature. So me personally, I don't know how she does it. I couldn't do it because I don't like pain for one, and I know it sounds crazy because I know it sounds crazy, but I'm a baby when it comes to pain.
Oh, no,
you'll know when I'm hurt because I let you know.
So real.
And it's funny because I've dealt with pain for years, again, playing sports, but at the same time, I don't like pain. So I deal with it, but at the same time, I'm gonna let you know.
Whereas with me, I can take it up to a certain point, and so that's what he's been seeing.
Yes,
I've been pushing through it for so long, and I don't like the narcotics. I don't like taking the pain meds because the structure of my bloodline is I grew up seeing a lot of alcoholism, and they may not have called it, but I've seen functional alcoholics. I've seen functional drug addicts. Not saying that they're totally across my family on both sides, but I've seen it. And so I know what it looks like, but your life is falling apart. You can call it functional all day, but there's dysfunction, and life is falling apart, and things fall through, and the children are missed. You connecting, you being present. Functional alcoholics are not. They're there, but they're not present.
Wow.
They're there, yeah. And that's a private pain. Because the people that they're attached to, they know they're the ones struggling. They know that you're a functional alcoholic, but you're dysfunctional, thinking you're functional. And so when it does show up, a lot of public people are surprised, but it's been there the whole time. The family has been suffering the whole time. That private pain starts to become public. But that's why they call them functional alcoholics, functional addicts, because they still produce.
Yes.
But at some point, it's going to be revealed in the public. What you think you hide in private is going to be revealed in public. What's hidden in the dark is going to come to light. And so that's one of those things where maybe a month and a half ago, I was in so much pain. My testimony was, but God, because I was in so much pain, I literally talking to people about what you release out of your mouth and the treasures of your heart. I had a really rough week, and I think I stood and said my testimony was, I don't look like what I've been through, but out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And I laid in the bed because I could not sleep, and it had been days. But yet people don't know because I get up and produce. But it came to a moment of weakness where I said, well, Lord, just take me because I'm sick of this pain. I can't sleep. I didn't have an appetite because I was in so much pain, but I did not want to take the narcotics to the point I had to break down and take them just to get some relief. But at that point I was chasing the pain. And so out of my mouth, I'm speaking against the very thing I've been praying about, that God would give me long life. Yes. And so that was my testimony. Most people don't know. People don't know. And so when you approach maybe a female at work, a young lady, you don't know that she's going through abuse at home. So it's showing up in her attitude on the job. Yes. That private pain is now, she's showing up to produce, but it's spilling out. It's not that every time you have a private pain that you bleed on people, but there are times where it's gotten to that point where you can no longer hide it. You can no longer keep it a secret. You can no longer keep it a secret because what's in you will come out. The treasures of your heart, what do you have hidden in your heart, is going to spill out. And so it's not necessarily just because we always want to say, oh, you bleeding on people. No, because most people don't know that I walk around the way I do. I smile, I serve, I pray, I war, get on the floor, do whatever I got to do because I'm serving the Lord and I try to do it in the spirit of excellence. That don't mean that the pain ain't present. Yes. That don't mean that the pain ain't present. You may have never known. Because like you said, I don't look like what I've been through and I don't put my pain on display. But when my pot is out of whack, when I ain't slept because I go to sleep but don't stay asleep, my pot is out of whack and now my attitude, okay, so my is my mental, my physical, my spiritual, my emotions, and my soul is all out of whack. Yes. So what happens is when you're overcome with pain, you become irrational sometimes because your mind is not focused because you have not slept or you have not gotten enough sleep because you're in so much pain or you're chasing the pain down with meds and it's just not working. So my body got upside down where I couldn't sleep at night because it was so much pain, but then my body would try to shut down during the day and I would literally try to fight to stay awake and I would go to sleep anyway.
Because you wanted to produce.
Because I wanted to produce, but my body said, okay, we're like in shock now because you haven't slept in 2 nights and you're still getting up during the day and working and producing and making things go and making things happen and trying to get things together and make sure everybody's good. But your brain is like, I need some rest. And then I lose my appetite and literally forget to eat because my mind is not intact. And he's like, did you eat? Marcel asked, did you eat? And it was in those conversations with you and the conversation with her where you need to eat. Wait, did you rest? You need to take a nap because I don't sleep long at night. And so the private pain for me as a woman can be great because we don't slow down to take time for ourselves. Again, I'm just really getting to the point of self-care. I ain't gonna say really getting to that point. Before we got married, I used to take 6 trips a year. So I would go get a hotel in Augusta, in Grovetown, just to decompress away from the girls, away from the dogs, because we got a house full of dogs, away from the girls, away from the dogs, away from
1 mile, exit right,
away from ministry, away from other things, just to allow my mind to slow down and my body to get in the hot tub. I had to have a hot tub. Get in the hot tub and allow my body to come down, and my mind to be just emptied out and just sit. And I already don't watch TV. If I listen to music, it's worship music. I love audiobooks. So I'm always in a place where I just like it quiet. Because I am an overthinker too. I'm really logical. I overthink in a minute. So I needed decompression time. I'm just sitting and I breathe. And I can do that all day, every day. So the private
in a quarter of a mile,
it was dealing
exit
with
right,
becoming self-aware of what I need. Assessing myself when my pie's off and I'll pull, he'll tell you in a minute, I'll pull back and I get real quiet. And he's worried. He gets worried because, okay, how are you
feel like I did something.
Yeah, but it's not him, it's me needing to pull back.
Yes.
And because I know I'm in pain, my attitude ain't gonna be right. Let me shut up. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of my mouth. And because I'm in pain, I need to be quiet. I need to allow myself to reset. And I wasn't telling him that. Because I'm thinking, well, I told you I'm always in pain. He didn't know to the extent. So I'm assuming because I told him, well, I'm always in pain, that he was just going to understand.
Yes.
That was so far from the truth. He did not understand. I'm like, dude, I done had 2+ surgeries and my nerves are always firing. You can't touch me this way. you know, some things I can't lift, and I'm losing grip in my hand, and some of my muscles are degenerating, and so I'm like, I'm in pain, and he's like, okay, but he didn't know. He did, yeah, he get it now. When you see me in tears and I'm tossing and turning because I just cannot get comfortable, and he'll go to sleep on drop a dime. Like he can have a conversation with you in 2 seconds flat, be snoring. I can't do that. It takes me a lot to go to bed. Watch them. Traffic. Maybe traffic. Weekend traffic. Okay. So, but then now, as a female, I would say for most females, my call to action to you is, and because it was brought to my attention by my husband and Elder Marcia, be self-aware. Know when you need to rest. Take time out to allow your mind, your body to reset. Ask God to renew your mind. Empty out your heart. Don't carry around all your issues on your back because you don't have to. There's counselors, there's therapists, you got life coaches, you got Christian counseling coaches, you got mentors, you got your pastors if you trust them. Thank you, Lord. If you can trust, find somebody that you really can confide in who will not throw your vulnerability back in your face, for one. But make sure you have somebody you can trust that you can talk to. Because oftentimes we don't want solutions. We just want to empty out so that we can release and be filled. We can empty out unto God and let God fill us up. For females, we got a lot going on, so emptying out for us is actually therapeutic.
Yes.
You just got to know who you can empty out to.
Yes.
So, Harold, what about the private pains for men?
Well, to piggyback on what you were just saying, men are not necessarily the same way. And I think we've had this discussion about this before, is that men tend to be more prideful. We tend to hold more things in. And that's why I like the newer generation or the younger generation now, where they're getting in touch with the mental side. They are able to be more vulnerable and tell about, the experiences that they've gone through. That, hey, something is going on with me. Something is wrong with me, and I don't know why, but I don't feel right. Whereas the older generation, and men in my generation and also before my generation, we were taught, not only by the streets, but also our parents and in the environments that we were in, is to be tough, is to be strong, is to go through it. And, men don't cry. Men are tough. Men don't, get in touch with their emotional side, so those are one of the things that we were taught, but I felt a little different. I was like, you know what? Something hurts. And if it hurts too long, it moves me to crying. And I'd rather cry this thing out. I'd rather release this thing than to have other diseases and things going on with my body that can be controlled because I'm holding things in. Where, again, men tend to hold more things in. But I think, again, there's solutions now. Like she was saying, like my wife was saying, there's other outlets. There's peer groups. There are groups on social media, the different social media platforms. There are counselors. There are psychiatrists. There are pastors. There are leaders. There are all kinds of people that you can reach out to and talk about these things that are going on with you, rather than holding this thing in and trying to portray an image, and hurting yourself in the long run, So, again, I'm so thankful that my wife is the way that she is. God bless, thank you, Lord, for blessing her how she is, that she isn't an emotional person, that that I don't have to be really, really strong around her, that I can be myself, that I can be vulnerable.
Thank you, Lord.
That I can tell her how I feel, and be okay with it. May not always go over right, but she does have an understanding because she's vulnerable with me, although she said, she was kind of not saying, but she is vulnerable. When she's really, really feeling a certain way, she does let me know. Outside of just the pain, she lets me know how she's feeling. And so I thank God for that she, that she showed me there is another side, that I can be vulnerable, that I can let things out and not have all this stuff build up inside of me. So I thank her for that. But again, I think men are more guarded when it comes to that. And I wish and pray that we would be able to release more. I wish and pray that we are able to get together and discuss these things, because just like women need women, men need men. Men understand men. It's great for a woman to be talking to you, but there again, a woman does not always understand how a man feels or how a man thinks. So as men, we need to get together. Yes, I'm saying it. We need to get together and discuss those things, discuss how we feel. Those are some of the things that will take place inside of my ministry, inside of our ministries together. But again, men, we need to get together and discuss. I had this opportunity many, many years ago where I was on a platform with a number of men. It was a closed door where we had young men, we had old men, we had middle-aged men, where men actually sat and discussed the things that were going on with them. And when I tell you, there were so many men crying in that room. There were so many men, it was a little hesitant at first because they were like, men don't always trust other men. But when they feel like somebody's going through the same thing, or when they know that somebody's going through the same thing, and then they can open up and be themselves, men will really, really let out and let another man know what's going on with them. And so that was to me, that was a life changer. It was eye-opening for me because I got to see young men crying. I got to see middle-aged men crying. I even got to see the elder men crying. And we're talking about pastors were in the room. The panel was full of pastors. And so they were actually crying and giving genuine advice, that you don't hear every day from just talking to men in general. So I think that's something that we really, really need to get together as men and do those things, because women will do it. And open up the vulnerability and understand that we do have mental things. We are not perfect. We do have things going on with us, and it's okay to release it.
I think that's a part of it there, that there are so many young men, there are so many men, even older men, who due to childhood traumas, whether they sexual or mental, rejection, neglect, abuse in some form, especially when it comes to sexual abuse, and even if it was verbal, when they grow up, they're trying to prove that they're not what they've been through.
Yes.
And so what happens is they overreact or they overcompensate. And so you find men with multiple kids, you find men who are trying to prove their manhood because you were molested, or you were sodomized, or you had some kind of sexual trauma happen to you as a young man. And so now you're trying to find your identity through sex. You find women, you use women as toys because you felt like somebody used you as a toy. They could have had sexual trauma from a woman using them, and so it confused them. So there's so many things that men cover up and they don't address it, but it comes out in their actions. And this is why when God brought me to having to deal with trauma and issues, I was like, okay, Lord, what are we doing? Because it's hard to show up in the authenticity of who you are when you're trying to overcompensate for your past, or you're trying to hide the abuse, neglect, rejection, the trauma of it. You may suppress it, but your actions show that it happened. Your verbiage tells on you. I wouldn't say that we always say people bleed. It's not necessarily bleed, but how you move, how you react, what you say speaks volumes for where you have been. And so I have found, I can't say for everybody, I have found over my lifetime, and being that I have a twin who went through some abuse and some of that, his actions and his verbiage. And that's my twin. So, and even as I started dating, even as a young teenager, I started saying, hold up, you overcompensating. You out here making all these kids, somebody demasculated you, and you're trying to show that you are masculine, or you swing to the same sex because you were traumatized by somebody, and you got gender confused because of how they abused you, and so now your mind has now associated what you went through to maybe you wanted it, and it was unwanted, but because of how long it took, or how long you went through the abuse, you traumatized in your mind, in your heart. And nobody really deals with that because it just, back then when things happened, our parents and grandparents covered it up.
Yes.
And the abuser, in my case, was still allowed to come to the house.
Mm-hmm.
Or you just go in your room and lock your door, or go play with your friends, but you still let the abuser come in. Or the abuser's in your family and you better not say nothing.
Yeah.
So now you've subjected me to seeing the same person who's abused me, and I'm supposed to be okay with it. So we bury it. Even women, we bury it. And so we have private pain that actually plays out in our young adult, in adulthood, and we're trying to figure out, how do we still show up? Well, we end up masking.
Mm-hmm.
We end up hiding. We end up pretending that we're okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my private pain, I have multiple types of lots.
I never saw.
Listen, it's on trying to go back to men, but it literally hits both men and women.
It does.
It hits both. It's just women over time are more apt to release it. Men over time will act towards it, or act out in a way that goes toward it, or act out in a way that they're trying to hide it. You either act into it, or you're acting in a way you're trying to hide it. You're trying to mask it, but you can only mask it for so long, because somebody with the heart of God and somebody who has the sight of the Holy Spirit will see it.
Mm-hmm.
They may not call you out on it, but they're trying to walk you into a way where you can walk through your process of healing without forcing it on you.
And then so many ways they will call you out.
But
They will, yeah. Well, they won't. They may not say exactly what it is, but they'll kind of remind you of something that you went through in a time in your life
that you tried to hide,
and you tried to hide,
or you hid it in your heart.
Yes. And so you're the only one. You know the truth. You as a male, I'm not just talking about male, but you as a male, you as a female, you know the truth. And you know what went on with you. And it's something that, because they hit right on it, you know that they are telling the truth. Because that's something that you have not shared with anybody.
Right.
And it's still hidden in your heart. So, I just say, men, if you're listening, release it.
But they gotta find a safe place. Like how it was very healthy not to. Okay, we went through some stuff when we met.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, prior to us coming together.
Yes.
And then so to women, I would say be a safe space for your partner.
Okay.
I'm trying to clean that up. I go.
Mm-hmm.
Be a safe place for your partner until you're ready. In a way, be a safe place to your partner to allow them to release. Those things that may have been plaguing them for a while, if it's heart trauma, and you know that's who you're called to.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you're called to be a healer inside your relationship. You're called to be a healer before you even connect and get married. Because I think we walked out healing before we got married, even down to the 2 weeks prior.
Yes.
2 weeks prior. But I knew he was my husband. But we also knew there was some healing that needed to take place, and I had to be an open book. He had to be an open book with me, and he had to feel vulnerable enough to start releasing things so that we can walk into this.
I can remember a point where I felt like I was going to lose you. And, I just got to the point where I was like, okay, what do you need to know? And it was at that time. Yeah. It was at that time where,
He's talking about when we was dating, before we got married.
Before we got married. And it was at that point where I didn't want to hide anything anymore. I didn't want to hide it anymore. And I wanted to be, not that I wasn't being totally
you weren't being totally honest.
I was almost being completely honest, but it was just one thing. That one thing that was really
one thing had things connected to it. Those okay.
That's true.
You want to have that conversation for real?
No.
Okay. Go ahead and tell it your way. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that
Hazard reported ahead.
that it allowed me to just be vulnerable.
Yeah.
It allowed me to open up to you because I saw the opportunity. And I knew that, or I trusted your heart. My God, thank you. I trusted your heart enough to say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and be truthful. And even if she doesn't accept it, at least I know I was truthful. At least I knew I could trust her with it. And so, back to your point, I think that's where we need to get as men, is we need to be able, like she said, we need to be able to find that outlet, that trust, and that person that we can trust. That we, you know, if we let them know how we feel, or if we let them know what's been in our hearts, or what's been hidden for so long, that it won't be exposed in social media, or it won't be exposed, you know, to someone else that knows you, and then it comes back to you. And so when it comes back to you, you know where it came from.
Right.
And then there's that trust lost again. But understand that we need to get to that point to where there is someone that we can trust. And I would say, you know, start with some type of peer group, some type of trusted peer group. Thank you, Al. Some kind of trusted peer group, some type of leader, or some type of counselor, or I can't practice.
I need one.
Jesus. But someone that is skilled, or someone that is able to handle that.
Right, because everybody cannot handle it.
Everybody cannot
handle it. That's good though. Everybody can handle that. If you go to somebody who has their own sexual trauma, they're not going to be able to handle your sexual trauma. As a man, unless he has already worked through the process of healing, because now he has the tools. If he has unhealed sexual trauma, he is not the person you want to talk to.
And you know, and me, for example, I love my mama, love my mama to life, but there's some things that I can't go to my mom. There's some things that I can't trust my mom with, because that's not her expertise. Get what I'm saying? So, and I'm just using this as an example. So, in this situation, I would find someone who I can discuss this with, or someone that I trust in releasing this information. And not only that, but they will have an understanding. They will have an understanding of how I feel, and not judge me.
Come on, that word. That word.
Not judge me for feeling the way that I feel, or, you know, having the emotions that I have.
I think that's
so. Yeah.
That's good.
So it's me, and that's where we need to get to, because that's what women are doing.
So what would you say for a man who he's tried to be vulnerable, but it was thrown in his face? Whether it be about another man he trusted, or about a female he was dating and it was thrown in his face, or because I think that's a large part of it. I already was demasculated as a child, or I was already abused as a child, and I don't want to experience that again. And so they have to open up and become vulnerable, and when they do, it's throw back. Because I've seen people argue, and you throw the one thing that they were vulnerable with them in their face, and it expect them to be the same. What would you say to that man who needs to push forward?
I would say, first of all, I don't know what your prayer life is like, but if you have a prayer life, continue to pray. Ask God for wisdom. Ask God for some answers. God will reveal it to you. And it may not even come in the form that you're thinking of. And it may not even come in the form that you think it would be. But he will answer. And so I say that to ask God, but also think about, you know, I don't know why I'm going here, but sometimes if you've been through church hurt, and you know, you've done it once or twice, and then you just feel like everybody's the same. Well, I'm gonna tell you this: everybody's not the same. That there is someone out there that you can reach out to. That there is someone that you can discuss this with. You may have to research. You may have to really, really dig in deep to find that person that you can trust. But there is
Hazard
someone out
reported
there,
ahead.
or someone's out there. It could be several people that you can release the pain, that you can release the trauma, that you can release what's bothering you and not have to hold that secret anymore. And understand that, because it happened once or twice, that everybody's the same. Everybody is not the same. That there are some good people out here. That there are some people out here that you can trust. I went through several relationships where I had a problem with trust. And it's something, just when you're about to give up, God bless you with someone that you can't. So I thank God that he blessed me with my wife that I can trust, that I can release, that I can be vulnerable, that I can tell her the things that are going on with me, and she will not judge me. So understand that there is somebody like that, and it doesn't necessarily have to be your wife, but I just thank God that happened to me that way. But there are people out there that you can trust, and I'm talking to the men right now more so than the women. But there is someone out there that you can trust. Put it in God's hands first, and then allow him to should I say, move you in the right direction.
Yes. Thank you for answering. Because they're therapists, they're counselors. I mean, they're lay members out there who are open, who are even if you have to go talk to another pastor outside of your church,
Mm-hmm.
who's not even affiliated with your pastor.
Yes.
Because sometimes you don't want to talk to the one of the house you're in,
Mm-hmm.
because you've heard other people's stuff. And I ain't saying that that's what happens, but I know from my personal experience years ago, I was in Korea, and went to talk to somebody, and it went back to the pastor. The pastor came to talk to me, and then they preached on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hold up. Wait a minute.
Ain't that something?
They will do it.
Yes.
I've seen it
Yes.
personally.
Mm.
So that's why I always say I learned to, if I can trust your heart, because I have to see that you have the heart of God,
Mm-hmm.
then I know I can come to you. And even with the ones that we thought were Christian or in Christ, we had to learn, no, that wasn't it either.
Yes.
But so there's always an avenue, there's always a way. But to the women, I would say, be the place that he can come to where he can be vulnerable. Because even as women, sometimes we're pushing through. By the time the man comes, we're angry, we're frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
we're tired. And so when he wants to be open with you,
Mm-hmm.
you're closed off, you're shut down, because you're already over exaggerated.
Yes.
I mean, overwhelmed. You're already tired. You're probably in your own pain. And oftentimes, like men, women will hide their traumas too.
Yes. Ooh. Oof.
Because I don't want everybody to know
Yeah.
that happened to me. But eventually it will come out.
Mm-hmm.
When women connect with the right women, you open yourself up the same way a man wish he could open up to his wife or his spouse. And this I can say from experience. A lot of women like men who are not just trying to be manly all the time and act like he ain't got no emotions, ain't got no feelings. We want to know that you feel. We want to know that you want to be appreciated. We want to feel appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
If you never have any emotions at all, what does that say to me as your partner?
Mm-hmm. He's perfect.
I mean, you so man,
Okay.
you don't have no emotions?
Yeah, we know that. That's not the truth.
Oh, that wouldn't work for me anyway. I love your vulnerability. I love that you can shed a tear, and I see you as even more for me. This may not. I love it.
Yes.
I know that his heart works. I know he has the heart of God. I know that he feels comfortable with me enough and respects me enough to open up to me, and he knows I would never throw it back at him. And when we have disagreements, we both know how to step away and wait and come back.
Mm-hmm.
That's been one of the key things. But so talking about pain, private pain, but showing up to produce.
Yes.
So
I'm sorry, did I step to the subject? I don't
you
know.
did, because men take their pain privately,
Yes.
but they'll still show up too. They'll work hard. They'll try to make their ends meet. Oh, this is a good one too. the subject of child support.
Mm.
Men work hard, and I ain't saying all men, because we can't speak on all men, and we ain't finna generalize and say all men. You can speak from your experience and what you've seen because you've been in the courthouse.
Yes.
And you know what you've been through. You know what some of your family members have been through. I know what some of my family members have been through. I personally believe sometimes men, I ain't saying all the time, because I know some deadbeat ones out there. And I've been married a few times, so I know. I'm just saying.
Yes.
I don't speak for myself. There's some men who really do work hard and will come get, like, the girl's there. He'll come get them. Jesus, he'll come in the middle of the week. They come, he comes. If they want something, he'll go get it. I've never had a issue with that whatsoever. What I do have issues with is some of those co-parents that I have had who pay support and feel like support is it, or they barely pay support and feel like, oh, that was enough. Now, I know they have to work hard to get their money for them to live off of. They get new families and other kids, and they feel like, well, as long as you're doing good and my child doing good, I ain't got to really give you nothing. And that's unfair to the woman because it adds more private pain, trying to ensure that she's got it all together and making sure that her child sees her as strong, but in the closet, she's weak. And she still has to walk out the door and produce. She still has to ensure that that child has everything she needs when he fails to pay support. Or you got the other end of that spectrum, some women get the support and go do whatever they want to do for themselves. Makeup, nails, hair, red bottom shoes, and all of that. And the child get the back end of what's left. So it can swing from, the pendulum can swing from the far left to the far right. Either way, it's still a private pain. Because if she's dressing it up that much and leaving the child on the end, what traumas and issues are you still trying to hide through your, I'm going to call it makeup. What I call it. It ain't makeup.
The name you gave this morning, but something made up or something like that.
My maid bag.
Maid bag.
My maid bag. Because
made up bag.
Made up bag. Because you're making up for me, for those who are walking around in trauma and trying to cover up. And that's not every woman who wears makeup. That's not every woman who wears a wig or hair pieces or everyone who wears braid. That's not true for everybody. I'm just saying I have experience from whom I have worked with and counseled and mentored. A lot of times, because of the level of trauma, I don't know who I am, so I'm going to make myself look like somebody else, and it makes me feel good. But I need you to find out who you are, and you can still wear the makeup, but be confident in you and not in the makeup you put on you. And so as I deal with them with the trauma, they finally start seeing themselves in the mirror. They're privately in pain, but making it pretty to go out and look like they're producing when they go out the house.
Wow.
I can't speak for every woman. I can only talk about the ones that I have had personally counseled and worked with. Those who had traumas, those who had pain and issues that were unaddressed for a significant amount of time, and they're finding themselves, they're finding their confidence, they're working through the trauma so that they come out on the other end confident in who God has made them be and confident in their identity, and now they can walk forward in purpose, and they can take their makeup bag, their made up bag, and now put on the makeup in the confidence of who they really are. That's not every woman. Some women like to wear makeup just because it makes them feel good. It ain't that they ain't trying to hide trauma, but for the ones I've worked with, no confidence, because somebody in your childhood told your confidence down. Somebody in your childhood made you feel insignificant. Somebody rejected you, and so in order for you to feel valuable, you make it up, you doll it up, you tighten it up, and you're seen, but the real you is still not seen.
So it's almost similar to an alcoholic that drinks because they have trauma. You know, the thing is, you drink and you drink and you drink, but at the end of the day, when you sober up, that issue and that problem is still there.
Right.
So I get what you're saying, because they dress themselves up, they make themselves up. But once you take all of that off, the issue and the drama is still there.
It is.
Or the issue and the trauma is still there.
That stuff hidden in your heart is still going to meet you when you take that makeup off.
Absolutely.
And that was the thing I had. No makeup. Take it off. And I need you to look in the mirror and literally talk to the little girl who's stuck at the level of her trauma. And what would you tell her? But not only do I need you to talk to the little girl that shows up when she's triggered, or when something comes out of her mind, the little girl shows up. I need you to sit with her and find out what happened. Because you hidden it in your heart so long that you may have changed the narrative of what really happened. Not saying that it didn't happen to you, because it happened. But what narrative are you playing in your head that's causing you to have to revert back to that little girl, revert back to that little boy? What narrative are you using to hold that hidden in your heart that you're afraid to release it? A lot of them are afraid because they're still attached to the family members. That's the number one reason I found with some of my clients.
Yes.
I still have to deal with my mom. I still have to deal with my siblings. I still have to deal with my auntie. I still have to deal with my cousin. Okay, but that don't mean it didn't happen.
Exactly.
You so busy hiding it in your heart. They done went on with their life.
Yes.
They done went and got married, had more kids, probably abused 4 or 5 people in the family, and don't nobody even know it. But you hide it in your heart, and you're the one walking around in unforgiveness, dysfunctional, and triggered as a little girl.
Yes.
Walk around in a full-grown woman's body, a full-grown man's body, but at the moment they come around, or at the moment something happens similar, or you see something that's out of slack, the little child shows up.
Yes. Dealing with depression and may not even realize that you're dealing with depression.
Because there's functional depression too.
Yes.
So those private pains, we really need to deal with. That's why when God starts saying unmask the trauma, it's time to release the trauma. I was like, okay, God, it's time to release. What does that look like? But he had to start with me first. I had to go back and start releasing some things that were holding me down and triggering me. And I remember like just hearing loud sounds, being around the family. I was triggered, and I would just shut up and look and go back to the car and get out the room and go outside. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here?
Yes.
But it reminded me of how my mom would have her tirades. I was like, okay, God, you're causing me to have to deal with the root of what it is. So now I understand why I'm being triggered the way I'm being triggered, but now I gotta work through the triggers. The private pain, but yet I'm still showing up. I'm still producing. I'm still doing what I'm supposed to do. But the private pain wasn't dealt with.
Yes. Wow.
So we're gonna make this child support thing though, right? I went a long way down that road. On the flip side of that, I've seen a warrant officer in the Army who did an immaculate job with his daughters, and the mom was just free to go do whatever, whether she pays support or not. And I guess she figured his life would stop. When I tell you this man is super successful, the girls are super successful, and I kept saying, well, why the courts ain't making her do what? And I'm not gonna call no names, but why the courts ain't making her do what they would make a man do? And then she would fail to show up, fail to come, fail to pay. And I was a little annoyed because I'm like, if it was on the other shoe, they would be dogging him out, snatching his paycheck, running him down, trying to take his driver's license. But he's such an immaculate father. Like when I say this, I ain't, other than the girl's dad, I ain't never seen a man go to that extreme to make sure his girls had what they needed. When I say he was particular about what women spoke around them, and I ain't talking about women that he was dating. I'm talking who could pick them up, who could do their hair. He ensured if you didn't have positive language, you couldn't be around his daughters. Period. Like he wanted to come in your house and see it was clean. He was on point to ensure whatever people he had that was touching their lives were going to be a positive impact, would speak life into them. And those girls are successful, and he's a very successful man. Mama thought, if I don't pay support, I don't show up, it's going to damage him. But you was trying to damage your girls too.
You are. In a sense, you are damaging them.
And I was surprised. Like, a woman did that? So, men ain't the only ones that can be deadbeat. Women can be deadbeats too. I've seen it. And those girls are so successful. He's successful. He's now married. He's doing well. Financially, emotionally, spiritually, he is doing well. I am so proud of him. I'm so proud of his daughters. But that woman, I was like, hold on, women do that? Women do that? Absolutely. I was too shocked, but then I got you, and I went, what the hey? Jesus, what is this? Absolutely. So I know that it can be extreme, but I really saw for myself how the system can be biased toward women having to pay support and men having to pay support firsthand because he's a friend of mine. Yes. But then getting with you and having to see it on the other end because my exes paid support when they wanted to anyway, and how they want to, although it's in the system. And some paid until my daughters were grown. Yes. Yeah, that's because they was in arrears for thousands of dollars, so they, did the bare minimum and paid until it was like 26. But anyway.
Hazard reported ahead.
I got to see the flip side of that when we got together. Yes. I've known of it, and I've had exes on support because of my daughters.
Yes.
But then I got to see the extreme of what you went through, and I was floored. Because
Mhm.
remember, I know of this firsthand other experience where it's a woman and she was getting away with all kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I'm like, but why they ain't taking no license. They ain't chasing her from state to state.
No.
They ain't looking for her job. And then here I come meet you, and I'm like, we going to court to do what?
Yes.
What happened?
Yeah.
Every 2-3 years she want more money.
Absolutely. But then.
But your daughter never. You were still supplying clothes, food, and everything to the house
Everything.
because
Yep.
she was taking the money to pay car notes. And stuff.
Benefits. Yeah. Insurance.
Yeah, I was
You name
shocked.
it. Yeah. Yeah. And then that's how it is, because the sad thing is
Accident reported ahead.
the state, county, or wherever it's taking place is they don't really care about that. They just have their rules in place, and they don't take it case by case. So everything is basically generalized. It's the same exact thing. Not even gonna let me over. It's the same exact thing where they view the man the same way. It's just they feel like the man should pay the support, but there's no stipulation. So again, I've talked to my wife where we've discussed it where I've actually been in a court, and I've actually seen where men are pleading. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing, but they're pleading because the fees that they have to pay are so high. And they plead with the judge that, hey, can you lessen this just a little bit? Because right now, what I'm supplying support. And my child is not seeing the support. But also on top of that, I'm also having to pay benefits. I'm also having to pick them up and do all the things that I would normally do as a parent. But at the same time, I can barely make ends meet. I can barely live on my own. And the judge has said, well, that's your responsibility. You still have to pay the support. So no, I'm not going to lessen. And yes, on top of that, you still have to provide benefits, meaning insurance, which is another additional whatever you pay. It could be up to $300-400 a month on top of the support that you already paid.
I see it.
So I can see that where these men are not able to survive, where they have to go out and pretty much hustle. And I ain't talking about always hustling in a legal way, but they have to pretty much hustle to be able to live.
I think it's kind of twofold, because sometimes they choose to live a certain way. You want this immaculate life, and you want to treat the girlfriend, and you're paying your support. But what about your child who needs you emotionally? I can't say that to you because she was living with you for 9 months and you still paying support. And she was staying with you and you were paying support on mom. So I know that it differs for person to person.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought it was so unfair seeing how the difference in how they treat women who should be supporting and seeing their children.
Yes.
I was floored that a woman would even do that, but I know they're out there. There's some that are, mentally cannot, physically cannot, emotionally cannot, because they're still dealing with their childhood traumas or they're on drugs, or I know there's cases.
Yes.
But to see somebody who willingly did it was that you did it to despite him.
Mm-hmm. The sad thing is that when they take into account for child support, they take an average of both incomes. So let's just say if the father is working, the mother is not working.
They're gonna hit him up the most.
They're gonna hit him up the most because he's the only one working. And so even when the mother works, let's just say the mother makes more. It really doesn't matter. It's still a percentage of both incomes put together. So even in those situations, because the child is living with the mother, the father is still the one. The child living with the mother is called the custodial parent.
Right.
The child that's not living, the father is the non-custodial parent. So in those instances, the father still has to pay the child support. And most times, 9 times out of 10, when you're trying to work with the mother to have more visitation rights, the mother doesn't want to do that because why? She's still getting the money. And if you give more visitation rights or joint custody, so to speak, then that takes the money aspect away.
It does.
Depending on whatever court you're going.
I'm gonna say different states have it. Yeah,
Yeah.
different states. Because y'all was Charlotte. So,
Yeah.
I mean, North Carolina. So yeah.
Yeah. So, but again, she's not going to give up full custody
Absolutely not.
because,
Well, some of them will, but very rare.
yeah, very rare.
That's why I was shocked.
So again, piggyback on what she's saying is that it's in so many times, so many instances, it's unfair to the father because even the ones who are doing the right thing, who have done the right thing, you know, we get an unfair treatment because of that.
That's private pain,
Yes.
but still have to go out and produce
Still
and
have
make
to
the
go out
money.
and produce and make the money and do what you got to
And
do.
hope
And
you can see your
still,
child in some cases.
and still live your life because your life still goes on. You still have to, you know, live your own life. Even if you're spending time with the child, you still have to live your own life. And so it can be tough. It can be really tough.
Wow. Talk about private pain. What about
But you still push through.
That's true. I give, yeah, you got to give a lot of credit to them because I say we're going to talk about the men and women, but I think about the children all the time. And because we're talking about support, it's hard not to bring the children in only. They have private pains as well. Let's see. They have private pains as well. Children have to deal with peer pressure and comparison and competition, good and bad. And then it brings on depression and anxiety, self-identification loss, losing self-confidence, the stigmatism of whether you're rejected or is there lack in your home. Children have their own private pains, and sometimes there's verbal abuse. It may not always be physical abuse. It can be physical abuse, but there's sometimes verbal abuse. There's sometimes rejection or neglect that they're dealing with. So children have private pains as well, and they still have to show up to school, try their best to focus and function, all while still trying to figure out who they are emotionally and hormonally. Then you have to compete in the comparison of how children now look at each other, clothes, hair, how you show up. And if you're in lack, that's a private pain. Because you may have a food scarcity issue at home, and the only food you have is at school, but you also got these people watching you, your peers, giving you peer pressure. The kids have private pain too. So as parents, we need to be more aware. If their mood shift, if they change how they dress, if there is a food shortage in your house, go get the resources. Go ask for the help to get what you need. There are many resources. You got food banks, food shelters. Shelters that'll help. You got neighborhood community centers that can also help the kids. There's no reason to sit in lack and not go get help, especially if you're capable of going to apply for the help. Now, sometimes just having $5 over will prohibit you from getting the help, but then there's other resources and other places you can go to seek help. Our children, we need to pay more attention to our children. This is how the enemy's coming in inside of their private pain, because they're still having to go to school and produce and try to get an education and try to function like things are normal when they have private pains at home. So we as parents, we as teachers, educators, ministers, we need to see. Look at them. Pay attention to their demeanor, their attitudes. What are they social distancing? Are they not social distancing, but are they distancing themselves from people? Did they used to have a lot of friends and things have changed? There may have been something that happened inside the friendship. There may be things, they got to worry about doggone rumors and bullying. They have private pains too. Are we vulnerable? Can they be? Let me say that right. Can they be vulnerable with us? Can they come to us and talk to us? I remember when you first came, and my